Everyone in the room laughed when the CEO pointed at the janitor's shy teenage daughter and said, "If you can fix this engine, I'll give you a scholarship." They all expected her to freeze, maybe run out crying, but instead, she just rolled up her sleeves and walked forward, steady, quiet, but with that stubborn look that says you're about to eat your words. What happened next left every engineer in the building speechless, and yeah, nobody was ready for the secret buried under the grease and wires, a secret that would shake the whole company. This girl, she was not ordinary. She was unstoppable. Now, I know what you're thinking, big talk, right? Well, picture this. Inside the headquarters of Stratton Dynamics, the air is thick with the smell of oil and ambition, but mostly arrogance. There's a shiny new 12-cylinder prototype engine sitting dead in the middle of the floor, next-gen, multi-million-dollar, meant to be the crown jewel, and it just wouldn't start. Diagnostics showed nothing. Top engineers had given up, and the whole department was basically one step away from a meltdown. CEO Marshall Greystone, silver-haired, all sharp lines, a voice that could slice glass. He's scanning the room, looking for someone to blame. His eyes land on Henry, the janitor, mopping quietly in the corner like he wished he could disappear. But the universe, it's got a sense of humor. Marshall smirks and points right at Henry's daughter by the door. Her name's Era, high school kid, backpack slung over her shoulder, more comfortable in the shadows than the spotlight. Maybe she can fix it, Marshall jokes, and everybody laughs. You know the kind, laughing at her, not with her. Era just looks at her dad, who shakes his head a little, like, please, let's just survive this day. But Era, she steps forward. You can see her hand shaking, but her eyes, those don't move. Can I touch it? She asks, and Marshall, grinning like he's about to witness a car wreck, waves her on. Phones come out. The engineer's all getting ready to record her humiliation, thinking it'll make a great story later. But Era, she just drops her bag, pulls out a battered old notebook with hand-drawn diagrams and pages barely holding together. She flips to a page and studies the engine, real quiet, maybe a minute tops, then her fingers start moving like she's been doing this her whole life. Loosens a casing, pulls off a panel, checks some capacitors so deep in the wiring even the head tech is squinting like, wait, what? She swaps out the part with one from her own bag. Someone in the back mutters, why does she even have that? And suddenly the whole energy in the room is changing. Try it now, she says, barely above a whisper. The tech pushes the button, probably half expecting sparks or a fire alarm. But that engine? It roars to life, smooth, powerful, not a hiccup. The silence that follows is something I'll never forget. You could hear people's hearts beating. That's how quiet it got. Marshall looks like he's seen a ghost. And Era, she just wipes her hands on her hoodie, but you can see it in her eyes. She's opened a door she spent years trying to keep locked. Then Marshall, he's not laughing anymore. He stares at her like she's something out of a nightmare and asks, who are you? Era glances at her dad, who's frozen, mop dangling, eyes glassy with something like fear and grief all at once. I just like engines, she says. A few engineers, now suddenly very interested, crowd closer. One, Donna, points to her notebook and asks, how'd you get that design? That's a confidential model. Era's voice drops, I drew it. Now the laughter is nervous, some of them almost desperate. You expect us to believe you reverse engineered a $4 million prototype? Era just shakes her head, flips to another page, schematics, equations, all in blue ink, dated years ago. I didn't reverse engineer it. I designed mine. Yours copied it. That's when the room really falls apart. Marshall grabs the notebook, flipping through page after page, getting angrier by the second. You designed this at 13? He growls. I never said I designed your engine, Era says, calm now. I designed mine. Yours just looks an awful lot like it. Henry steps forward, puts a hand on his daughter's shoulder, ready to get her out of there. But Marshall snaps, you're not leaving. Era meets his eyes, are you detaining us? And suddenly Marshall's bravado slips. Of course not, but we need to talk. Then, for the first time, Henry speaks up. No, you need to listen. And the room falls into that kind of hush you only get when a secret's about to come loose. Henry tells them about Era's mom, Marin Whitaker, a genius, the real architect of Stratton's engine, years before any of these execs had their names on patents. She was my wife, Henry says, voice cracking. She tried to expose them when they stole her work. Then she disappeared in a lab accident. He looks right at Marshall. I never believed it. I took what I had left, my daughter, and ran. Now it's not just awkward. It's deadly serious. Engineers who'd been there long enough start shifting, some of them looking away, a few with tears in their eyes. Donna, her voice soft, says, "You're Marin's daughter?" Era nods. Another engineer whispers, "She taught my first seminar." She could draw engine designs like she was playing jazz. Marshall clutches the notebook tighter, jaw tight. "Why bring this up now?" Era stands her ground. "You made it a joke. I just wanted to help my dad. But now that I'm here, I won't walk away from the truth again." Leonard, a senior engineer with more regret in his eyes than pride, finally raises his hand. "I remember the files getting pulled, the research getting rerouted. I didn't speak up." Henry jumps in. "You weren't the only one. I cleaned the labs. I heard the whispers, saw the doors getting locked. They buried her, but they didn't bury her mind. Or her blood." He nods at Era. Marshall's walls start to crack. He sneers, "You think this changes anything? A name and a few sketches." But Era's smile, man, it's not the smile of a kid anymore. "You know what makes someone important," she says, voice steady. "The truth. And everyone in this room knows it now. Even you." What happened next was wild. One by one, people started pulling off their Stratton badges and dropping them on the floor. Donna, then Leonard, then another. Marshall looked around like a man watching his kingdom crumble. "You think anyone will believe you?" He spits. Era just lifts her phone and shows him the video, his joke, her repair, every word, all on tape. "It already has," she says. The video goes up that night, and by the next morning, it's everywhere. Every feed, every group chat, every news anchor asking, "Who is Marin Whitaker and why was she erased?" By noon, Stratton Dynamics is front-page news, not for some big tech win, but for the cover-up. Internet sleuths dig through archives, find old patents, buried memos, all with Marin's name. The employees gather around monitors in the lobby, half in shock, half hopeful, a few just ashamed. Donna uploads what she knows to reporters. Leonard stands off to the side, badge still in his fist, silent. Marshall holes up in his office with lawyers and PR, refusing to say a word, drinking that last bitter drop of pride. And then, just when you think it's over, federal agents sweep into the building. No words, just purpose. 20 minutes later, Marshall Greystone is in handcuffs, led out through the lobby as the staff erupts, some cheering, some crying, most just standing in awe. The man who ruled with silence is finally silenced. Outside, as cameras flash and reporters shout, Era stands next to her dad on the front steps. "You should say something," Henry whispers. She nods, steps forward, and says, "My mother built something beautiful. People tried to bury it, but truth doesn't stay buried. It rises, sometimes years later, even if it takes her daughter." There's no revenge in her voice, just something bigger. Justice. The sun's blazing, the world's still spinning, but you can feel that everything's changed. And then, out of nowhere, a limousine pulls up. Door opens, and out steps a woman in a green coat, silver hair, steel in her posture, but eyes soft when she finds Era. It's Olivia Whitaker, Marin's mother, Era's grandmother. They've never met, but when Olivia hugs her, decades of pain and hope finally meet. "I kept everything," Olivia whispers. "Every letter, every photo, every note. I was waiting for this day, even when I stopped believing it would come." Behind them, a humble man in a sharp suit introduces himself as Calvin Rohr, head of the new Federal Department on Scientific Ethics. He hands Era a letter, an official invitation to lead a program named after her mother to support young inventors who never had a shot. Era tears up, but not for the job, for what it means. Her mother's legacy won't be erased this time. It'll rise. That night, in a tiny community center, Era lifts her violin, something she never thought she'd play in public. The music starts off soft, then swells, filling the room, her mother's memory alive in every note. No one claps at the end. They just sit in awe, transformed by the truth. And outside, high above the city, a billboard lights up, a mother and daughter, side by side, finally seen. So here's my question. What do you think is more powerful, protecting a lie or risking everything for the truth? Because this story isn't just about engines or even justice. It's about what happens when we decide enough is enough, when we finally speak up. Tell me where you stand. Would you have stayed silent? Or would you have spoken out, even if your voice shook? Share your thoughts. Because, honestly, that's how change begins.